Hello, today we are talking about the Bookseller, Jahizand and Mutanabi Street. In passing through Mutanabi Street, I remember two people who became attached to this place. They loved it. They lived here and died here. Despite the period and the centuries that separate these two people, this place brings them together. The first died in our time, while the other died in Abbasid times. The first is the bookseller, and the second is the writer, Jahizand. In 2007, television continued to broadcast more and more explosions that were rocking Baghdad almost daily, most of which were car bombs. This time, the terrorist act targeted the heart of Iraqi culture, Mutanabi Street. This simple, quiet place, symbol of Iraqi memory, in the blink of an eye became devastation, and all that could be seen was destruction and devastation. The explosion left many dead and injured. Nearly 30 people were killed, among them the bookseller, the lover of the book. He was deep in his books, the ones he sold or bought, read and loaned, old and new. He died in this explosion to say goodbye to his reading lovers, to university researchers, to people of culture. He had great knowledge of books. He was an encyclopedia in a way that student researchers were visiting him to consult him, so that he specifies the titles of books useful for their research and the most suitable search path and the ideal conclusion to end. Sometimes you find him explaining the supposed research from introduction to conclusion. He liked to talk to them and organize their research in the form of titles, chapters. He was speaking to them like an expert teacher. Start with this book, and with that, then continue with this book. And the students followed his valuable advice, building the research foundation with the chapter titles he suggested to them. How many searches had names suggested by him? Beautiful titles, well chosen, as he was giving a child name that was very dear to him. The bookseller left with the 30, leaving his bookstore, which was his life, his happiness, and his source of life for him and his family. He moved away from the world of the book in which he lived. For him, the bookstore was his real home and the environment for which he was born. He used to read the book as if he was in front of a charming world, plunging him into its deep sea, to fish the hidden pearls after they had taken enough moonlight. Asked a question about a book or about a writer he knew, he immediately started talking about him as if he were his friend. He talks about him in detail and in personal way. His life is a world of discovery and happiness among the walls of large books. He lived like this until the catastrophic day that made him and his simple ideology disappear and his love for books. Here is the book market. Here people were living in peace and harmony until the hand of terror and betrayal remembered them and destroyed them mercilessly. The exploded car left a large ditch amid the damage of the buildings. As for the bookseller, they took him out from the under the books and the damage with the scraps of his last book. Despite the strong smell of gunpowder, the smell of books still emanates to tell us that book is still present and that the smell of gunpowder will soon disappear to be replaced forever by that of the book. Because it is better and more enjoyable to confirm its existence and the survival of the book market, which soon returned to its usual rhythm and life. Today, as I pass from here, I look at the constructed bookstore. It looks beautiful, but it lacks his beautiful presence, his strange way of reading, shaking his head over the book, immersed in his second wall, in its detail and in its protagonists. I go through this because for me it's more than a place. It is a memory, a symbol, or just something very beautiful. This is not an ordinary market. It is the Warakeen market, which dates back to the old Abbasid era. These beautiful, narrow alleys are the same of Warakeen market, with the same fragrant and pleasant smell. Here, since the discovery of paper, it has become a meeting place for book copiers, writers, and readers. Today, this market is a memory of that time and an extension of it. This market subsists as long as there are people who read and as long as there are those who love the book. This market, which has existed since the Abbasid era, since Baghdad decided to spread science, won't be stopped by the blasts of the bad guys. In this book market, Jahizand was at work. For this place, Jahizand left Baghdad to work and to write here, to publish his books here. Here was his library, in which he also lived and made a living. He also died here, in this market, similar to the bookseller's method. Jahizand died here when books from his library fell on him. Although the first accident is fate and the second accident is orchestrated, but they lived here and walked here and they discussed here and they wrote and published and left here a corpse, maybe smiling because they spent the last moments of their life in this place. They weren't handsome. Jahizand had googly eyes, but people used to visit him because of his knowledge, as well as the bookseller, which was the destination of searchers. People loved him for the same reason. Knowledge is beauty and love. Jahizand loved to read, revise, and write, so he read many books which were translated in the periods of the caliphs, Al-Mansur, Al-Rashid, and Al-Ma'mun. He wrote in many fields, in philosophy, logic, nature, mathematics, music, literature, and language. He lived in the most prosperous period of the Abbasid era. In his book, The Avaricious, he deals with the stories of the avaricious, their strange habits reflecting the economic and social life of that time. From this place, the two left, leaving their beloved place, for this place to continue to attract people and for the story of the book to continue and for another dreamer, book lover, and another searcher, and another writer, and other readers come. Life doesn't end here, and the place continues to attract all these people to seek out and present a new book, a new topic, and another story. Let's say goodbye to the book market and end our simple article, remembering this symbolic place which has not ceased to celebrate the book since that time, to continue to shine today and still become the literary important destination, despite the damage and despite the accidents. this book is stronger than lead and gunpowder. Goodbye.